So I think our society tends to put emotions into two categories. We have good ones and bad ones. And as you can imagine, this spring I have been experiencing a lot of what we put in the category of bad ones with my mom passing. But I think the reason we label them that way is that they're painful and they're uncomfortable. They're awkward to talk about, to share. We have to be vulnerable. And I want to say that every emotion that we experience as a human being is essential to our journey. It's part of being a human being, to experience all of these emotions. They all have a purpose. They can, so those darker ones can inspire us to make changes in our lives. They can help us to become more empathetic. They can inspire a realization of the blessings that we have experienced. And we can check in with the divine to see if the emotions that we're experiencing, if they're part of that divine plan and path, or if they are our own kind of human fear that we've created, that sense of separation. And all we have to do is to really get centered and to focus on, what is this feeling? What really notice what it is that we're experiencing, to see, is this painful thing part of the journey, or am I kind of self-creating? I've been spending a lot of time with a Japanese aesthetics philosophy idea, and that is mono no aware. And it roughly translates as the ethos of things, or the sensitivity to the ephemeral. And it captures that bittersweet awareness of life's impermanence. That it's not sorrowful or tragic. It's reverent appreciation to what is here and what is past. And it's that soft ache that you feel in your chest on that last beautiful summer day when you know the rains are coming, but it's just so, puts you in a state of awe, or that sunset. And you know that it's passing. You know that this moment is here just now. And so there is this kind of melancholy that rides it. But we can be moved by that beauty and still feel that sense of sadness in its passing. In Japan, the cherry blossoms are more than just the beautiful flowers. They are a national symbol of mono. They place a thing that cannot be put in a calendar. So you have a natural experience, like a birth or a death, and you have kind of a window of time. The cherry blossoms will happen here, but we can't say March 16th, the cherry blossoms will be peaking. So we have to be flexible in our schedules, in our awareness, in our willingness to prioritize this. And when the cherry blossoms are in bloom, families gather, friends gather, and they set up tables under trees, and they eat together, and they celebrate this beauty, knowing that it is only here a few days. We have to be willing to move our schedules around, to embrace the beauty that's here. What if we treated our lives like the cherry blossoms, where we honor our surroundings, the people in our lives, and with that same awareness and reverence? of the passive. This is that person, here they are today, right now, and holding that beauty. I remember when our son went off to college. We dropped our youngest off at college, and it was the end of an era. It was the end of the time that we would have as a family unit together. And I was really worried about how much of a mess I was going to be after but there was also a great sense of joy and excitement for him entering. He was going off to be his own man, to make his decisions, to make his own way in the world. And I would be excited for that, even though it was the end of an era, the end of an experience, part of our. And I took the safety precautions in that Jim and I took what we call the midlife gap year that year. We bought a big teardrop trailer and we dropped Sam off at college, and then we went out into the backwoods of North America and just went camping for a year. And so I had something to also be looking forward to. But as we progress in these, feeling this awe of beauty, but also the sadness that something else is passing, we can know that the divine is going to bring us something new, something more. That as long as we are breathing, we have a purpose and a plan, and spirit will bring us opportunities. So as we feel comfortable letting go of what has been, we can be excited about what is coming. We can experience both the joy and the grief in the same breath. And as Ari sang in her song, the only thing that doesn't change is that everything changes. There's constant change. The spirit is that life force energy that moves through everything. It is never stagnant. It is never stuck in a spot. It's always moving and creating what's new, what's next. And things change. So life moves forward. People in our lives evolve. We have our bodies change. The plans that we make sometimes fall apart, but then they come together again in a different way. Every moment, once we have lived it, is then disappears into memory. So the memory that we're creating in the now is going to be different if we're aware of it, if we're giving it our attention, if we're in that present moment. Sometimes I have memories where I wasn't really paying attention, and I'm saddened that I don't have a clearer view of what was there because I wasn't present. The Buddha says that one of the three marks of being in a human body is impermanence. That's part of being in this experience, is that things change. So we know that the only constant is that divine, that is what we can always count on, and that change is the change. The idea of this spiraling universe, that it doesn't come back to even the same space, it's always changing. When you stick your hand in a river or a cup in a river, that water is never going to be the same water a second time. It's always flowing. And that is the divine. So sometimes we resist that change, even though we know it has to happen. That we want that baby to stay small forever. We want the vacation to never end. We want our loved ones to not say goodbye. We want to, when we try to hold on to that moment, that to try to keep time stagnant, that is where suffering happens. And another aspect that the Buddha brought us was that our suffering is caused by our attachments. When we try to keep things back, that keep that change from happening. When we lose a job and we're trying to like keep a hold of that, and we're upset that we've lost this job or whatever, instead of knowing that a new door is open, there's a new prospect, a new sense of wonder that the divine is bringing us. But we do have to have a faith in the fact that the divine is going to bring us. I think that that's a big part of where human fear comes from, in that we're afraid to let go of the good that we have because we doubt there will be something as good moving forward. So when we cling, we suffer. And when we release, trusting, having faith that the divine will bring us more, we are in that flow. We feel that creative energy through us, and a sense of excitement in what is coming next. So we know that we co-create with the divine through our thoughts, what we're thinking. And I want to go a step farther in that when we think of things, we begin to have emotions. So our thoughts cause feelings in us, and those feelings put us at a vibrational level, and that is the language of the divine. So literally we vibrate at a different level depending on if we're feeling sad or if we're feeling joyous. If we're feeling connected, that's why meditation works. If we're feeling connected, we're going to be at a different level. And that's the message that the divine is actually understanding, more than the thoughts we're thinking. It's actually the vibration that we're moving in the world. And you can walk in a room and feel someone's particular vibration. Well, wow, that's why we're drawn to certain people when we walk in a room, because they're at that same level. So when we let ourselves get caught up in the beauty, to be moved by an experience, without the fear of it ending, just appreciating the beauty that surrounds us, that's when we're most alive, because we're letting that creative energy inspire us. So Mana no Aware teaches that beauty lies in our awareness. That we welcome the experience of now without the need to control it, without the need to keep it permanent. That's when we're really feeling it. When we awaken to the sacredness of right now, this breeze, this smile that I'm experiencing, this loved one, this breath. So Mana no Aware, it asks us to pause, to feel it all, to not deny that there is a sense of sadness, something, but to take time to feel all of it, the joy and the little bit of the sadness that this experience has. And to be willing to take that time, even if it's not, to take the time out of your day. It's super easy to stay really busy and not notice. Jim has gotten haircuts many times, and it's been days before I actually notice, oh, you got a haircut. To take the time and notice what's around us. And I think it's super easy to get in that, we've got emails, we've got to-do lists, to say, oh, I'll do that thing like another time. I'll go to the spiritual dances. I was thinking, oh, I love those. I'll do that another. The thing is, when we put whatever it is that you're, enjoying the cherry blossoms, or taking that morning walk, whatever it is, we're gonna miss that particular walk, that particular spiritual dances. You know, the one that's calling us right now, we'll miss it. It will never be the same, just like the river will never be that same time. This Sunday, you know, the people who decided not to come are not going to get to experience this. So I had you know, I'm so grateful for this amazing experience. I got to go and be with my stepmother for 3 weeks after she had her diagnosis, but while she was still herself. She was her sense of humor. We went to lunch when we first got there. My younger son Sam came for the first 5 days I was there, and she drove us to lunch. And we got to do lots of errands. She had her sense of humor. She loved to tell stories. She was kind of quirky, and so you know everybody remembers her and loved her, and she was still that person. And I feel it will be something that I'm grateful for the rest of my life, that I had those weeks where we got to do stuff. And one of the things that we did almost every night, she couldn't get back into her den where the television was, and she liked to watch TV. And so I brought her this laptop and put on Netflix, and I got her box, and so she liked Agatha Christie movies and British baking show. So those were the two that we'd set up the computer on the bed, and I would, you know, snuggle in next to her, and we would watch these shows. And I remember the last night that I was there, my sister had come. The plan was that I was going to leave until it was pretty much the end, and then my sister would say, "Come now," and like that, which is pretty much exactly what happened. Less, a little bit more. But it was my last night there with her personality, with her sense of humor, and this person that I loved. And I remember sitting in the bed next to her, and I could feel the warmth of her next to me, and I just turned and I watched her watch the show. I just, you know, was looking at her, how she would react if something was funny, or, you know, there was a scene in the British baking show where something, you know, they were worried it was going to be overmade. They were, you know, like worrying. She's a very good cook, so it was kind of neat, like to watch this. But just watching her watch the show, and I remember reaching over and just touching her cheek and saying, "I love you so much," and just being fully present in that moment. And yes, I knew this was my last time with her, and so there was that sadness in me, but there was also this joy of being able to take that time, have that time, and I will treasure it my entire life. That moment that we had, and we know that death is a natural part of life, that it is imminent, and my mom was ready to move on. And I know that, you know, I certainly will miss, even this morning, there was a time where I was like, oh, I need to tell Anne this news of mine. And I was like, oh, I can't tell her this news. And then I was like, no, I can tell her this news. And we are all constantly connected to everything that is. The essence that is Anne is out there, and I can express, you know, whatever my joy, my celebration, the thing that I think that she would be proud of me for. I can express it, and so I know that carrying on. And her path was calling her in a different direction, and she welcomed it. So there's an acceptance embedded in honor that leads to a softening of attachments. We can appreciate something fully, even if it's not permanent, without needing to control it, without needing to own it. It provides this beautiful pathway to releasing that resistance. to the change, to surrendering to that flow, not in defeat, but in trust that there will be more beautiful things in life. Having faith in that divine plan can really help comfort us in moving forward, in leaving behind that chapter and stepping into. So how do we live this awareness in our daily life with our to-do list and our emails and all of the things that are calling us in this moment? And one is to just take a pause. Be willing to consciously pause. I have a friend, a Muslim friend, who has shared with me that whenever he moves through a doorway, any kind of transition, there's a prayer list. And I love that idea because it's that pause. It's that taking that moment when you are about to leave the house. You know, when Jim goes off to work or I'm going shopping or something. You take a moment to notice, and that's what I usually notice there. When you kind of hear that. So to take the time to notice, to appreciate the people in your life. The sunlight when it hits the counter in the late afternoon, you know, or the birds in the morning. A lot of times I find myself letting them just white noise and not actually hearing them. So take that pause to notice the beauty that's around you at this moment. And then bless that moment even as it's passing. I used to have a really hard time with cut flowers. I didn't really like cut flowers because they always die. And now I'm realizing that we have cut flowers all over the house now because I can appreciate that beauty. And even though I know that every day I need to kind of eat one or two out and then it's still, but to appreciate the beauty that's around, even as if we know that it's going to pass. So sacredness is not in duration, but it's in attention. So that we can, you know, create a sacred moment just by giving it our attention. And I have found a huge shift in my energy, in my state of mind, in my sense of joy, whenever I choose to take that moment out and I make whatever moment a sacred moment. Whatever's happening. I can find beauty in any space. And the third thing is to create beauty without being concerned about its permanence. So one of the things I love to do, I love to cook, which is one of the things I share with my mom. So create a meal and make it a sacred moment. Bring out the candles, even if it's not a holiday. Bring out the tablecloth, plate it beautifully, and know that that meal, you know, can be this wonderful experience right now. And yes, it'll be gone. We'll eat it and clear the dishes and blow out the candles, but we have that sacred. One of my favorite things to do is gardening too. So that to me is the divine in process every day. So plant a seed, and I'm always so in awe when they actually sprout. Like, not all my seeds sprout, but so when they do, it's so exciting. And then when they start to have their own personalities, where it's not just the seed leaves, it's, you know, oh, I can tell this is a broccoli as opposed to a cauliflower. No. Like a tomato or it's a broccoli, and you can start to tell, and then they start to grow even bigger, and there's food that we can eat, and they go to seed, and in the winter they all die back. The garden is bare, but it is left those seeds that can be planted in the spring. But again, those seeds are going to be different than the seeds that were originally. you're moving in this upward spiral. I had a friend who went to Bandon. I don't know if you know about the circles in the sand in Bandon, but she was driving up the coast and she went and she said it was so amazing to be part of this thing. So they built these beautiful, huge labyrinths that you walk in the sand as the tide is out. And people walk them, but there's only those people that day that get to experience that labyrinth. And it's different every day. The water comes in and washes it away. She said it was really profound to know that she was just one of a handful of people that got to experience this. And then it's so Mono no Aware is about embracing what is here, feeling it fully, the joy that it can bring. But it has a little heartache in it. The moment is fleeting, that it will pass. There's a story of a Zen monk whose favorite bowl was his only possession. He places it on a shelf, and later a novice accidentally knocks it on and shatters. And the monk looks at it and he says, wow, that was beautiful. And then he gets a broom and he starts sweeping. That is Mono no Aware. There's no anger, there's no denial, bitterness, just a reverence for what is and a willingness to move forward. So how often do we curse the ending instead of blessing the gift? That we're upset about the change and yet not really focusing on the gratitude that we had for the experiences. Mono no Aware doesn't ask us to fix anything. It asks us to see, to fully feel, to notice, to cherish the now, knowing that nothing lasts. And it's in that very awareness that we can feel the full presence, that we can feel that creative energy moving us to what is next, giving us this sentiment. A sensitivity to the ephemeral, the pathos of life, when embraced, becomes the poetry. As we begin to live it, we're not rushing through our lives. We're taking that pause to really cherish each moment. It's not hardening our hearts in fear of pain that the future would hold, of letting go of something or become too busy to miss. Instead, let's be the ones who take the time to see what is here at this very moment, to cherish it, to be touched by the beauty of this ever-changing world, even as it passes.